The Book of Bill was announced 7 months ago and released a little over 3 weeks ago on July 23rd. Upon its release, people had already begun uploading videos about it and sharing their theories about certain pages of the book. But there is one page in the book that I kept seeing over my social media feed, and that page is the one that reveals the truth about the Gravity Falls ending. Hey guys, it's Cindrus, and today we're looking at the Book of Bill page 70. This page shows the Pines twins sleeping on a bus seat with Waddles, surrounded by alternate versions of themselves from other timelines. The page before this one actually states that they only got to exist in one timeline, whether they were frozen, drowned, or erased. This is the only timeline that we see that the Pines twins made it out alive, and this immediately set off everyone in the Gravity Falls space, and rightfully so. It's very interesting and surprising to see all of the other timelines where they had met their fate, and every death is actually a callback to an already existing episode. We'll start off on the left page, where we see Dipper wearing a red robe belonging to the Society of the Blind Eye. The Society of the Blind Eye is a group in Gravity Falls that erases people's memories in order to forget the horrors they have seen. All of the members in the group also erase their own memories from time to time, leaving them in a forgettable state of mind, and it looks like they were able to erase Dipper's mind as well, making him forget everything that happened that summer, including his attachment to Bill and the journals, thus ultimately adding another member to their group. Below the Dipper in the red robe, we see another Dipper, with Mabel this time. The twins seem to have been turned into stone and are stuck in place, left screaming for eternity. In this timeline, their road ended during Weirdmageddon, when we see Bill Cipher catch up and get a hold of them, but instead of giving them a fighting chance, Bill Cipher decides to turn them into statues and finally get them out the way. Under those two, we see Mabel as a zombie. Now this one is more obvious as to where it's from. It is from the Karaoke episode, which is actually the first episode in season 2, and it's about Dipper trying to prove himself by raising the dead by spell. In this episode, we can also match Mabel's clothes to the same clothes she's wearing in the Book of Bill, which confirms that Stan wasn't able to help him this time, and they were eventually surrounded and turned into zombies. Next to zombie Mabel, we see a pixelized Dipper. Now, although we don't see a pixelized version of Dipper in the show, this is still a nod to Fight Fighters, the 10th episode of the first season. In this episode, Dipper summons a fighter from an arcade game named Rumble McSkirmish in order to scare Robbie, but he ends up fighting Rumble himself and survives. The Book of Bill portraying Dipper as a pixelized character makes him believe one of two things. He might have been sucked into the game, or simply finished off by Rumble. At the bottom of this page, we see a wooden Dipper. This timeline ended when Dipper was trying to save Mabel from the Lumberjack's curse, which resulted in him getting turned into wood by the ghost. And instead of being saved by Pacifica, he ended up staying like this. This is a pretty straightforward death and hard to mistake for anything else. Above that, we have Mabel wearing a crown and holding some type of mushroom scepter. We also see that her legs are actually missing, leaving her with two small stumps. And if this doesn't seem as obvious and you haven't figured it out by now, in this timeline, Mabel is actually captured by the gnomes and forced to be their queen, which is the plot of the first episode in Gravity Falls, meaning she didn't even get past the first week of summer vacation. The next timeline shows Mabel covered in Smile Dip, which is a banned candy from the episode The Inconveniencing. This episode shows Mabel in a hallucinatory state, unaware of her surroundings. So in this timeline, it is safe to assume that she was overexposed to the substance, causing her to lose her mind and life. The last one we see on this page is Dipper, and he appears to be a ghost in this timeline, which is actually a callback to the first and only time he has ever made a deal with Bill Cipher, which was in the episode Sock Opera. In this episode, Bill offers Dipper the password to the laptop in exchange for a puppet. Bill insinuating and pretending he's talking about Mabel's puppets. Dipper agrees, and Bill takes over his body as his new vessel. And unlike the end of the episode where we see Bill fall out of Dipper's body and losing control over him, in this timeline, Dipper never got a hold of his body again and was left to stay a ghost until he finds another vessel. Moving on to the second page, we see the main twins and another 8 timelines. We'll start off at the top with the tiny pair of twins. These two are from the episode Little Dipper, where they were shrunken by Gideon and held captive. But instead of escaping and getting back to their normal size, it looks like they were never able to obtain the crystal attached flashlight to regrow and were forced to stay small forever. On the right side of the page, we see a glitch Dipper holding a time machine, which he stole from Blandin Blandin in the episode The Time Traveler's Pig. In the episode, Dipper breaks the machine, but is able to fix it and go back to his original date. So this leads people to believe that in this timeline, Dipper wasn't able to fix the time machine and has been glitching through different periods of time. Bipper. The Bill Light Dipper is a timeline where you can pretty much figure out how he got defeated in one glance. It's another side of the coin showing Bill's point of view after taking control of Dipper's body. To the left of Bipper, we see Mabel with a blue/greenish glow around her, which is very similar to the glow she had in The Inconveniencing, where she was possessed by the ghost of the man who worked there. And instead of setting everybody free, it seems she was kept in control, perhaps as a type of warning to any other teenager who steps in their store. Below her, we see Dipper with a pair of glowing scissors pierced in his back. This is from the time when he was tricked to meet up in a small factory and was ambushed by Gideon. Dipper was forced to face Gideon while he was possessing an amulet that granted him telekinetic powers. Obviously a mismatch. Gideon was actually able to stop Dipper in this timeline. On the left side of the page, we see another Dipper, but this time he's covered in candy, which is from the monster in the Summerween episode. So after chasing them around town and getting a hold of them, he was finally able to devour the kids that once ignored him. And last but not least, we have yet another Dipper, but this time he appears to be melting. And this is one of those timelines where you have to use a bit of your imagination, because there hasn't been a moment where we specifically see Dipper melting. But there is one episode that comes to mind when I see a fate such as this one. Headhunters. Headhunters is the third episode of the series, and it's about an old group of wax statues that come to life and are set on getting rid of Stan and the twins. At the end of the episode, Dipper lures Sherlock Holmes outside and is melted by the sun. Now, I believe they show melted Dipper as an example of what could have happened, similar to what happened to Stan and his statue. In the episode, they treat Stan's wax statue as a person and host a funeral for it as well, demonstrating the importance of it and the bond Stan had created. Now, if I picture what could have happened if Dipper had a statue of his own, then I would assume he would have been melted like the book implies, being defeated by the world's greatest detective. But at the end of the day, this is just a bridge I like to stand on to compare the book and the show. Well, it looks like that would be it for today. I try to go over the main timelines we see and not the hidden ones in the background. I like to keep my videos as short and informative as I can, so please let me know how I did and if you were able to understand everything clearly. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys another day. Later.